Michelle Rafeld from the Ohio Department of Insurance. Welcome back to the Fraud Leadership Series.
Thank you.
So, you have been investigating insurance fraud for over 2 decades now. So, I've got to ask the types of fraud that are committed and the way fraud is committed, how has that evolved over the past 2 decades?
I have to say that the types of fraud being committed really haven't changed much, but the way in which investigations are conducted has changed drastically due to all the technology developments over the last 25 years. It's been absolutely amazing. When I first started my career in investigations, the internet was new. Companies were skeptical to give it to employees, because they thought it was only for porn. And so most of our investigative efforts were done, boots on the ground, go out and gather information from, the courthouses, the public, and just lots of, stealing phone books. So you had references to where people lived and how you could reach them, and then now it's all done, electronically with just a few keystrokes, accessing public record sites or through vendors who have lots of records they compiled to make our jobs easier. So it's really interesting how technology has impacted, the insurance fraud arena.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I haven't picked up a phone book in I don't know how many years.
I don't even know if they exist.
I know. No, one got thrown on my porch, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I was like, why are you giving this to me? I don't need this anymore. So people do always ask us though, right? Because we work in technology and insurance fraud, and there's this concept of being cutting edge, right? People are always saying, like,
Hmm.
what is the newest fraud scheme? What is, like, as if it evolves every quarter or every year. I don't necessarily think that's the case. Obviously, we see new things from time to time, but do you agree? Is that what you've seen as well? I think it's more just how fraud is committed with the new technology and new ways of doing things.
Yeah, it really does come down to that. The insurance industry is embracing technology. Everything now is done, primarily through e-commerce. And we as a society are heavily reliant on our devices, our phones, our laptops, our iPads. And so, nothing's done in paper anymore. It's all done electronically. So, whereas before someone would file a false claim with, just by making a misstatement on a piece of paper. Now that's all being done through their devices. They're filing a claim directly from the accident site itself or taking pictures of their car with their phone. And so, it's really interesting now how much people are using their personal devices as part of their fraud schemes, probably without even really knowing it.
Yeah.
Just because it is something we rely on, each and every day. So, whereas before, years ago, everything was done in paper with
Right.
the industry.
So we like to think that technology is a solution to everything, right? And sometimes
Mhm.
people think, oh, we're going to bring in this new technology and I'm going to lose my job. The tech is going to take over. But there's certainly challenges with technology, right? And hence why we're all still here. So has
Yeah.
technology purely made your job easier? Has it added some headaches? Is it kind of the same? Is it just new challenges?
It's really been a blessing and a curse. On the blessing side of things, we've got data readily available. I think it's actually led to more opportunities within the investigative arena. You've got desktop investigators, desktop analysts. You're able to really analyze things and find things more quickly than you would, before. But at the same time, it's been a curse because for us as state agencies, especially, it's harder to get information sometimes that we really need, especially the evidence that might be on a personal device. Now, before we used to be able to serve a subpoena and get paper back and start analyzing it immediately. Now we have to look to see, do we have to do a search warrant? Do we have to go to another agency to help pull that data off because, we're not experienced necessarily to do that ourselves, which could hold up cases. You really have to take a lot into account on the data. We want to make sure the data that we're getting is secured properly, it's being analyzed properly, and that it's going to be admissible in court. So, with more data being protected by the Fourth Amendment, it is making our job somewhat harder as investigators. But again, it's something that's just a learning curve that we're working to overcome, and I know we'll be successful, and already are successful in doing that. So it's just changing with the times.
So, speaking of changing with the times and being successful, what would you say is your advice for a successful investigations unit? Change is not going to stop tomorrow. What do you need to be
Right.
thinking about to be successful into the future?
I think you really always need to be evaluating, what types of members do you need on your team? Before we had a lot of reliance on former police officers. Now with the data and technology components, now we're relying on people who have tech experience and IT experience and data analytics experience. So I think to be successful, I think investigators need to be, accepting of change, doing all they can to learn as much as they can about, technology, how it can be used, how they can gather information from it, how it can be their friend, and then just staying up with the times and being open to that. Because really, the change is never going to stop. And the more you do to be open and accepting of it and learn all you can, the more successful you're going to be in the long run.
Embrace change. I love it. Well, thanks, Michelle. Really interesting stories. Love to hear more in the future. It was really nice to have you on the Fraud Leadership Series with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.